Hi, YouTube. Tamara here, and we have a special guest. I am here today with Eliza David. She is the author of the Cougarette Series. So, welcome, Eliza.
Hi, thanks for having me. How are you?
I am very good, and I'm so glad you could be here. This is actually my first live author interview. So,
Oh my
I,
God. And you picked me?
of course, of course. So, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and take a minute to tweet out and send out this link to everybody and their mom so that everyone knows it's happening right now.
Awesome. And I will be posting it to both my personal Facebook and Twitter and to my author page on Facebook as well. So, yay, yay. I want everyone to tune in. We're going to have a good time. I'm psyched.
This is going to be a lot of fun because your series is a lot of fun.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I was just reading your first book, The Cougarette, last night, and I'll have you know that I lost some sleep because I was reading it. I was like, what is Cece doing? Oh, it's crazy.
Cece, she is something else.
What? I was like, no, girl, no. Oh, God. Here she goes with this young man.
Yeah, Jay Weston. Yeah, he's interesting. So what now? How far are you? Without doing a spoiler, how far are you? I always like this, do a quick check and see how far people are.
I just finished book one.
Okay.
So I have not delved into books 2 through 4, right? And then the fifth one's coming out on Friday.
Right. So the fifth book, now here's the thing about the fifth book. The fifth book is not really the fifth book. It's technically a collection of short stories based on characters from the series.
Oh.
But it will lead into what will be formally book 5, which I'm releasing in October, and that's called The Cougarette Secret. So so far there are,
Ooh.
yes, because yes. Yeah, CC something else. So the Cougarette is the first book, and I like to call them by their colors in Kindle because they're all pretty much the same style but different colors. So the Cougarette book is the orange book that is free on Amazon. It's perma-free, so it's free forever, and it's also free on Barnes and Noble if you have a Nook. Um, and then we have the second book, Cougarette in the Country. That's a green book with strawberries on it. The third book is Cougarette Takes Manhattan. That's a navy blue. And then the fourth book is Cougarette on Top, which is red. So that's the collection in short so far. Yeah.
Cougarette on top. That just okay.
I try to shoot for something cute with these titles because with series, you always have to, if it's going to have the same keyword, you have to be creative. And I always try to make sure that the title of each of the books in the series has something to do with the story so that it's not just kitschy. It's something that really delves into the story so that by the time you finish reading the story, you'll know why it's called Cougarette in the Country or Cougarette on Top or Cougarette Takes Manhattan. So, yeah.
Makes sense. It's I think it's something that's interesting about writing a series that you have to think about these kind of things. Is the fifth book going to be the final book in the series?
Okay. I want it to be the final book in the series. I really, really do. But of course, as I'm writing it, I'm starting to get a plot bunny for a sixth book. But right now, I feel like after the fifth book, this will be the last book for a while. I'll say that because I really do want to delve into this new series that I'm thinking about.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about a new series because my characters are tend to be within the ages of mid 30s to mid 40s, and they are women of color. And I thought, and I like that segment because that's something that you don't hear a lot of in chick lit and in romance. They're always kind of a side character, if they're ever a character at all. And that's why I thought Cece was special, because she really is this woman who is an everyday woman. And as you know from the Cougarette from the first book, which again is free on Amazon, it is that she gets thrown into a very precarious situation and she just really tries to grapple herself out of it. And that's kind of the theme, is that this is just a normal everyday woman that gets into this situation with this guy, and then she gets into another situation in her professional life. So balancing the professional and the personal is another theme that I go for with my characters. And that's what I'm doing with my next series. My next series is going to be more about, my main character is going to kind of be the anti-CC. She's going to be very cynical about love. She's not really interested in having a relationship. She's an extreme introvert. And she finds herself in an unexpected situation with a man as well. So that's what's brewing so far with that one. But yeah, Cougarette, I think this is probably going to be, this 5th book, which is going to be called The Cougarette Secret, is probably going to be the last one for a while.
So what inspired the Cougarette series and Cece to come about?
So I always, and authors say this all the time, I know it's cliche, but I always had a book in me, because I love reading, and I could read 2-3 books at a time. I'm just one of those psycho readers that's just like, just give me all the books. And I thought to myself, one day I put up a Facebook status and I said, I'm going to write a book. And I was just, to no one in particular, I was just like, I'm going to write a book. This was in late October of last year. And someone commented and said, why don't you do Nano? And I'm like, what's Nano? So they gave me the link. I looked through the entire website, because, you know, Nano starts in November. So I said this in late October. So the website was fully packed and ready to go for Nano. And I just jumped in. And when I wrote the Cougarette, the main focus that I wanted to bring about was a woman around about my age. I'm 36, so I wanted a woman around my age, maybe a little older, who is fresh out of a divorce and meets a man almost 20 years younger than she is. So when I started writing in Nano, I just wanted to hit 50K. I just wanted to hit the 50K and see what happened. And I was just going to publish, you know, self-published Cougarette just to see if anybody wanted to read it, because I thought it was a great story after I, you know, made it bleed in the rewrites. And I said, okay, I like this story. Let me see if someone else likes it. So I published it, and I published it in January of this year, and it just kind of took on a life of its own. And I'm just really grateful that people just even cared enough, you know, to pay the $2 or whatever to read it and respond to it the way they did. Because if it wasn't for that response, I don't know if I would have continued with the Cougarette. I think I would have tried something else. But then, because it was only going to be a standalone book, and then it ended up becoming a series. And that started in January. And since then, over the past 9 months, it's produced 4 books, and now the short stories collection that drops on Friday.
Wait a second. 9 months?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know how I did it either.
Let me get a drink of water.
Let me get my water too, yo. Because yeah, it is.
I can't even handle you. You did all of this in 9 months. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to you.
I thank you, because I really didn't even realize it at first. It just seemed like once I wrote that one, and then I published Cougarette in the Country, the second book, which is my favorite of the series, by the way, because you get to get some flashbacks into a teenage CC in the late 80s. So if you love the 80s, you will love Cougarette in the Country. So you will love Cougarette in the Country because you get a flashback into the 80s. And so this character just kept bubbling out of me. It was insane because CC Banks is basically, she's the main character, and she gives birth to all of these different characters that I created. Lainey, her outspoken lesbian best friend, to Jay, to other characters that you'll meet along the way, like Jim Lee and Bobby and Bryce, and even her son. It's just, there are so many different characters that just kind of bubbled out at me at once, and I just kept writing whenever I could, because as you know, I've got like kids and a husband and a full-time job.
Mm. Do you sleep?
Not really. What I started doing was I had to really manage my time, like, to the minute. Like, when I got to work, I did what I needed to do at work, and as soon as the clock struck noon, lunchtime, I'm writing during lunch, or I'm rewriting something during lunch, or I'm emailing myself notes, or I'm printing out especially when I'm in the rewrite phase. I'm printing out chapters and taking chapters with me to work and red penning them during my lunch. And then I get home, I fix dinner, or if my husband's fixing dinner, then I do a little bit more writing there. We spend time with the kids for about an hour or two. I do a little bit more writing then, but then I just force myself to go away. And then I get up at 5 a.m. and either I'm exercising or I'm writing.
Well, I guess you would have to fit it into every spare moment if you're going to be that productive.
It's a little obsessive, but I just really enjoy writing about Cece. She's very aloof, and she has a good heart, and she's witty, and she's smart, and she's charming, but she just does not know how to function without a man at the core of who she is. So this last book, The Cougarette Secret, is really going to be about her figuring out, is she going to be with someone? Is she going to finally just kind of come to terms with some of her own insecurities? And kind of just peeling back the layers on her really is a little bit of an obsession for me. So, yeah. But I love the response that I've gotten from my readers. I love that they love CC and they hate other characters. That's always great too, when they hate characters. Because I know there are a lot of people out there that a lot of my readers who are Team J. They love them some Jay Weston. But there are a lot of my readers out there that hate them some Jay Weston too. And it's always interesting to hear from them. How do you feel about Jay Weston?
I don't think I'm Team J. I don't think so. He got some funny ways that I was just like, oh, not today.
Yeah, he's definitely has. The thing about Jay, I like to talk about Jay a little bit too, because Jay has what I like to call, he's like, have you heard the term fuck boy?
Yes, I have.
He is like fuck boy light. Like, he's not complete, like 100% fuck boy, but he does have fuck boy tendencies. And I did that on purpose because I couldn't, she's dating someone who, think of it this way, in Cougarette in the Country, in book 2, when we go back to 1988, when she when the summer she turned 16, Jay Weston hasn't even been born yet.
Whew.
So this is a young man, and she is an older woman. She's not old, but she's older. And I always try to make sure that I show the difference between Cece, a woman who has lived life, she has been married, she has raised a child, next to someone like Jay, who is 25 and still wet behind the ears. But he's really good in bed.
See, that's what had happened. That's what had happened.
Exactly.
He was fine.
Yep.
He could cook. And he could throw down in the bedroom, and she fell in love.
Yeah, that is exactly how it happened. Like, one thing I will say about, and this is something I'm, again, as I write about the two of them, what I'm discovering is that they do love each other. I think there is genuine love there, but they just let sex get in the way of everything. And they talk about this a little bit in book 2 about how they use sex as a way to heal whatever disagreement they're having. And it becomes a cycle. And one thing I heard from a lot of my readers was, yep, I've been there before. I've been there. I've been in a relationship with someone where we would argue about something that really required actual discussion. And we ended up taking care of it in the bedroom. So that's one thing about Cece and Jay's relationship, is that they really do love each other, but they really love sleeping with each other too. And because they love sleeping with each other so much, it tends to cloud their judgments about the bigger issues in their relationship.
I think that a lot of us can relate to that, you know. And there's a lot of things that I found relatable about Cece. I haven't been married and I don't have any children, but just parts of her personality and what she was looking for. And I love her best friend, Lainey's bomb. I thought she was hilarious. Killed me all the time. Their friendship, I really appreciated their friendship, because I tend to find, and this is kind of like a universal thing, that there's not that many strong female friendships that aren't centered around men in some way, where it's like they're fighting for a man, or, you know, all they do is talk about the man. It's all about the men. But with them, it's like a real friendship.
Yes. I when I was writing it and I was thinking about who is Cece's best friend, because Cece is definitely someone who needs a friend to guide her. She needs guidance. And I was thinking, I was like, now we could go the traditional gay best friend route. But I thought, no, that's not dynamic enough for me. So I made her best friend this stacked white girl with long blonde hair who happened to be a gold star lesbian. She's never been with a man, has no desire to be with a man. But she and Cece are so in sync with each other. They've been friends for almost as long as Cece was married. So they've been friends for 20 years. She's the godmother to her teenage son. Their bond is so tight that their sexual preferences don't even equate to it. And when she talks about Jay, Lainey can relate. When Lainey talks about Roxy, Cece can relate. And that is what I wanted to show, was that their relationship is not built around the people that they happen to be with. Their relationship is deeper than that. They are each other's sounding boards. And more so, Lainey serves as a sounding board for Cece, because Cece has been kind of, when you get married, you, especially for 20 years, you live in a bubble. And all Cece knew, she married this man fresh out of college. She married him the day after she graduated from college. So she never had an opportunity she went from her father's house to her dorm to her husband's house. And she never had, this is the first time, this is why I set Cougarette on the day her divorce was finalized. I give you a little background, as you know, as to what led to the divorce, but I set the story the day after her divorce to show that that Cece has just never had a chance to be herself. And what happens the day after the day she gets divorced? She meets Jay Weston.
Goes buck wild.
So she just never gives herself an opportunity to truly be alone. And she tries. She really does try. God love her. But she's one of those people that needs people. But you don't feel sorry for her because she is a nice woman. She just needs people. That's the story of Cece Banks.
She wants to be loved.
Yes, she does. Don't we all? But and that's why I like to touch on that with people, because we all want to be loved. Now, some of us will not go to the lengths that Cecilia has gone to be loved. But I think that she kind of beckons something that's inside of all of us, that we all do want to be loved by someone. And, it wouldn't be much of a dramatic story if Cece didn't do some of the things that she did to obtain that love. But I think that that's why people like Cece, is that because she really is a genuine person. She really means no harm, only to herself. but she is really a very loyal friend. She's a good mother, and she's a hard worker, and she's a damn good lover.
Anyone who's watching, if you have any questions for Eliza, please tweet them at us with #GirlsNightIn. And remember, the Cougarette is perma-free on Amazon. So speaking of questions, you had a couple questions in your event. So Sin Ricky Kirkman asked, what books/authors inspired you to become an author? If books wasn't what inspired you, what did?
Well, like I said, I am a hardcore bibliophile. I love reading, and I love reading different authors for different things. Now, when it comes to the particular subject area that I write about, which is basically 30-something, 40-something women in the prime of their sexual peaks, I would have to say my number one influence would be the author Erica Jong, who wrote the timeless 70s classic Fear of Flying. I'm actually rereading Fear of Flying right now for probably the 7th time. One thing that I love about Erica Jong is that she, at a time where it was the early 70s, late 60s, post-civil rights movement, Vietnam era, and the beckoning of the women's movement and women's liberation movement, she gave a voice. She gave a sexual political voice to the movement. And I'm one of those people, I'm not afraid to say it. I like talking about sex. I like talking about not necessarily the action or the act of sex, but the politics behind it, what it does to relationships, not only to the relationship with the person with whom you may be having sex with, but indirectly, how that indirectly affects people around you. And in her book, Fear of Flying, her lead character, Isadora Wing, was something of a marvel. She was a woman who was sexually free. She was letting her own thoughts be heard. And she was she was an anomaly. She was someone who wasn't trying to be, even though she was married for the second time, she was someone that wanted to still ask the what if questions about her life and about relationships and about men and about society's thoughts about them, and just always questioning. And that's what I've always enjoyed about Erica Jong's writing, is that she's always questioned sexual politics, and she's continuing to do so. She has another book coming out in September, which I've already pre-ordered, and I would have to say she was my biggest influence. Another influence that I have from an author would be Judy Blume. She is my all-time favorite author, and everything from her, everything from Margaret to Forever to just to Summer Sisters. My favorite novel from Judy Blume would be Wifey, and Wifey is kind of like Fear of Flying. It's a little tamer, I think. Her lead character, Sandy Pressman, was a big influence on the creation of CC Banks. Another woman who is who is in a marriage where she's beginning to question her wants and her needs. And I just always find that intriguing because you really don't get to hear that side of women, especially married women. Married women don't get asked too many questions beyond, how are the kids? How's your husband? If they work outside of the home, how's their job? And if they work if they're stay-at-home moms or homemakers, they certainly don't get asked about what they do because people don't consider that work. Unfortunately. And I think that the voice of the married or divorced middle-aged woman is an interesting voice to listen to. It's a voice of experience. It's a voice of wit, I think. There's a certain kind of wit that goes with a woman when she's in her late 30s, early 40s. And I think that both of those authors, Erica Jong and Judy Blume, have captured that voice really, really well.
Fantastic. I was leaning over here writing down the book you mentioned. I haven't read Wifey and I haven't read Fear of Flying, so I'm gonna look those up in my library and see if they have them.
Yes, I would highly recommend those two books. And it's interesting because with Judy Blume, especially, Judy Blume, people think of her as, young adult, they think probably the raciest book they've ever read from Judy Blume would be Forever, which Forever, I think, is required reading for any woman. But Wifey she kind of pushes the envelope with Wifey. She steps into a different zone. And Wifey was written right around the time of the buzz of Fear of Flying, so it kind of melds into that same kind of theme. But then she also has other books. Smart Women is another Judy Blume book that I highly recommend. That'll definitely knock you on your keister if you're used to preteen Judy Blume books. Smart Women is dynamic. Such dynamic characters in Smart Women. Summer Sisters is another Judy Blume book that I love. I have her newest book, In the Likely Event. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but that's another one I pre-ordered. If I pre-order your book, then you are like, you definitely got to be a fave. So another author that I love, of course, is Candace Bushnell. She is the creator of the Sex and the City book, of which the phenomenal television show was based on. I love Candy Bushnell because she's a little bit more, she talks from a woman's sexual perspective more in my generation, in our generation. When Sex and the City came on, I know she didn't write per words the series Sex and the City, but when that came on, that was just like such a aha moment for me personally, to see women talking so freely about their relationships and being real about it, because everybody's boyfriend is great in bed and everybody's husband does the dishes and is the perfect man, but these women were talking real honest talk about the men in their lives, and I appreciated that. So Candace Bushnell is another favorite author of mine as well.
Fantastic. And I think that Sex and the City shocked a lot of people. I think that it kind of shook the foundation of what people expected women to act like and to think and to be, as though we're not sexual beings that are allowed to be sexual and to talk about it.
Yeah. And Sex and the City came out at a interesting time for me. I was 19 when the show premiered, and by then I had had my fair amount of experience with men, and I was thinking to myself, as I entered my 20s, like, what happens after that? Like, what's it like after high school and after college? What is that whole arena like? And of course, the show kind of glamorizes it a bit, but when you really got down to some of the conversations that the women were having, my favorite parts of Sex and the City are always when the foursome are talking at the
Oh,
diner,
definitely.
or they're talking the morning after, after they've had their fun, and the daylight comes on, the four of them are together discussing and rehashing and dissecting each other's lives. And that's the kind of vibe that I wanted between Cece and Lainey, where they can just have these unadulterated conversations with each other, and there doesn't have to be any pretense. It doesn't have to be any, fake smiles and, okay, girl, yes, you're doing the right thing. No, Lainey will call Cece on her shit. And I needed that in Cece's life. And I think that's what I pulled from Sex and the City, was that honest girlfriend to girlfriend talk that you really don't see a lot of. Sometimes we tend to, with our girlfriends, we tend to be like, "Oh, okay, girl, it'll be all right," try to be encouraging. But Lainey is none of those things. She's going to
No.
give it to you straight up. She loves you, and she's going to tell you the truth. Absolutely. So, yeah, those are my favorite parts of Sex and the City as the show, and I encourage all women to watch it. It's awesome. I still watch it. I have both. I have both movies downloaded. I have them on DVD. I have the entire series on DVD. I'm a stan for Sex and the City. So.
Oh, goodness. So let's see. Another question from Casey Abels. She asked, who is the number one person in your life that inspires you to follow your dreams?
I would have to say that would be my husband. I explained, writing 5 books in 9 months when you have children and a full-time job and a husband is no easy feat. And I have to say that my husband has been nothing but supportive in those adventures, even when it takes me away from them for a little while, when I have to like I'm in my guest room right now, and I'm just, sometimes I have to come down here to write, especially when I'm in rewrite modes. First draft, I can do it anywhere because I'm just letting it flow. But when I need to buckle down in my rewrite mode, and my rewrites can take weeks, my husband's always been encouraging about that, and encouraging about letting me have my time to write. And he's more of a sci-fi guy, so like reading the Cougarette was like a big, like, that was really a step away for him. He read the first book, but he's pretty much done with the Cougarette at this point, but he loved it. He said that I really had a good talent and a good gift. So his help, him, pitching in even more than he already does with the kids, and he's been nothing but encouraging to me. So definitely my husband, and my mom too. My mom told me, you should be a journalism major. She used to tell me that when I was younger, before I went off to college. So she's always been a believer in my ability to write as well. So I would say those are the two main people that definitely keep me motivated.
What do you do as your day job?
My day job, okay, it's really, really thrilling. I sell educational materials.
Like,
I work for an education firm in town, and I basically help coordinate the efforts to sell those contracts to big states. It's really, really thrilling work, but it allows me the monetary means I need to raise my family. And also, the time is very flexible. The place that I work at, I can bring my laptop and work on my writing during my lunch hour, and I have flexibility there. We also have a on-site fitness center, so on the mornings when I do get up at 5 a.m. to write or rewrite, I can always just catch a workout when I go to work. So it's definite. My day job is, it's a 9 to 5, and it pays the bills. That's all I can really say about it.
Well, you have to pay the bills.
I do. I'm gonna need. My kids are gonna need food, so I'm thinking that's probably a requirement. They're gonna have. People will start to wonder if I don't feed my children. So.
Mama said she's writing a book and she can't. she can't buy us food right now.
Mommy's off trying to be the Black Jackie Collins. Yeah. Seriously. But yeah. So, I work at a great company. I've been there for about 6 years. And it's one thing I love about the company I work for is that they have such great flexibility with work-life balance. And that is of utmost importance to me. Eventually, what I want to do is write for a living. That is the ultimate goal. Right now, my life is not conducive to that goal because, one, I have dependents, and two, I actually like leaving the house and working. I could, if we juggled the money right, I could stay home, but I don't think I'd want to because I would just watch Bradley Cooper movies all day and eat and do very little writing if given the choice. But one day my dream is to write for a living, and I know that dream's not too far off.
Now, if you keep building such a powerful repertoire, certainly not. Yes. My goodness, you're going to have 20 books in 2 years.
Oh, man. Wow. Yeah. I get in awe of myself about that because when I looked at, when Cougarette was published, I mean, it hasn't even been a year since I started writing the damn thing. I started writing it on November 1st of last year. That's when I started actually saying, okay, this is who CeCe Banks is. And it went through so many iterations before it became the Cougarette. It was called Private Relations at one point because she's in public relations. And I thought I was going to make it more sultry than I did. But when I wrote, at first, CeCe Banks was like a MILF. She was like Stifler's mom in the beginning. When I first started writing this thing, I was going to make this Jackie Collins-esque, just vampy character. And I said, you know what? CeCe Banks is no vamp. She's very good looking. And my celebrity muse, because all the writers I know have celebrity muses, and my celebrity muse for CeCe Banks, the more I started writing, was Nia Long, who is a beautiful woman, but she's no vamp. And yeah. I wanted it to be like a Nia Long kind of character because Nia Long looks like the kind of person that is beautiful and witty and smart, but you wouldn't mind walking up to her in a supermarket and asking her how much cauliflower is. I wanted her to be an approachable person. So when I think about how many iterations CeCe Banks went through before she actually became CeCe Banks on paper, it wasn't that long ago. So I don't know where the hell this comes from.
I love that you started this with Nano. A lot of my viewers, and myself included, have gone through the Nano process. We've done Camp Nano, and 50K in a month is a really hard feat. And I love the fact that your first book came from that crazy time period.
Yeah, I had never heard of it before, and when I'm so glad that I was like, quite frankly, I was probably hungover. It was a Saturday morning. My kids were running around, and I had a little bit too much wine the night before, and I was thinking, I need to do something with myself besides work and raise kids and be a wife. And, I want to tap into something in myself. And I said, I love reading. That's all I ever do whenever I have time. I'm going to write a book. And when someone mentioned Nano, that really got my wheels turning. And that when I saw it and I saw the community and, researched the website, and I was like, wow, I should have done this a long time ago. And 50K is a feat. There were some days I didn't think I'd clear 20K because I just thought that, okay, maybe I'll be able to get this halfway done, maybe. And then by the time the story just started evolving, and like it got to the point where I was watching like the celebrity muses that I had for my book, and while I was writing it, and I'm like, oh, that's totally something Nia Long would do. That's totally something Lance Gross would do. And I would start like writing it just like I was watching a movie in my head. Like, here, this is what the story is. And then I hit 52K when I ended. And I thought, okay, now what the hell do I do with this? So Nano was over. So then I thought, okay, what's next? Okay, I have to rewrite it. I'm like, oh boy. And the rewrite process, as you and the authors listening know, can be treacherous.
Yes. Painful.
And I had to, you have to step out of your ego when you do that, because you have to annihilate this piece of work. You put you're so happy when you're writing the first draft. You might have a few bouts of block in between while you're writing it, but overall, writing the first draft is a wonderful experience. Pie in the sky, whatever the hell you want to write. But if you want to publish this, you're going to have to make it bleed, and you're going to have to kill your darlings, and you're going to have to say, you know what, as much as you think that little line is cute, cut it. I cut like a whole page out of the Cougarette, and I was so sad. Like I was like, but this is so good. I ended up copying and pasting it on a Word document and throwing it in a folder, and I said, it's good, but it's not for this book. So the rewrite process definitely helped me learn a lot about myself, and say, you know what, you might think this is greatness, but we need to tighten this up a bit. And now the rewrite process is easier for me. It's never easy. It's easier for me now because the first rewrite was painful.
So what kind of advice would you give for other indie authors who are just starting out with their first book or their second book? What kind of advice do you wish someone had given you?
Don't be, especially if you're writing romance or even mystery, don't be afraid to put it on paper. You can always erase it later. Like, especially when I started writing sex scenes in particular. I've read my fair share of smut in my day, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm about to write a sex scene, because it is really, I keep telling people this, it is really hard to write good sex. I'm serious. It's the hardest part of my book, is writing good sex, especially when you're trying to make good sex with two people who are in a relationship. And writing sex is so hard. And I was always afraid to push myself and go there. And, my first sex scenes were, he's on top, she's on top, he's from the back, they're done. And it's like, oh, this is not gonna fucking work. So I I was so afraid to like push myself and go there. So any author that's writing something that has a shock value to it, whether it's, erotica, romance, mystery, crime, in crime, if in your brain this person was beheaded, go for it. Like, talk about blood splattering everywhere. I mean, take it there. You know, I mean, pick up authors, read while you're writing. I know a lot of writers do not like to read other people's works, especially works that are from the same genre. Me, if I'm writing, like I'm writing right now, I'm working on Cougarette Secret right now, and I'm rereading Erica Jong. Now, I'm not going to put Fear of Flying in my book. I know Fear of Flying, it's one of the most famous novels of the 70s. Of course, I'm not going to do that, but it does help me it helps encourage me to go there with my writing. So I would encourage writers, go there, write it down. You can always take it, you write it down in your first draft. You can always take it out in the rewrite, but I guarantee you, once you write it down in the first draft, and if it's really good and really pertinent to the story, you're not going to want to take it out in the rewrite. And chances are you'll be good for that. Also, read authors of your genre. Don't be afraid to read while you write. When you're a writer, you have to be able to multitask. You have to be able to continue your reading and continue reading the authors that you like so that you can be more motivated to write your style and find your voice. So that's my advice to indie authors.
Stellar advice. Would you consider traditional publishing in the future?
I would. I've already started reading one of the books from Writer's Digest about how to land a literary agent. So if there are any literary agents out there listening, hire me. I am available. Absolutely. Call me. But yeah, I would definitely consider traditional publishing in the future. Right now, I'm happy in my lane though. You know, like I said, I have so many other obligations in my life that self-publishing is the best route for me right now. And I enjoy having control of my work, especially because I write about women of color. I'm kind of afraid to give my baby to, or, you know, or to give my writing to a traditional publisher who's going to, you know, kind of not make it the experience that it was intended. And so right now, self-publishing is definitely my lane right now, but my goal eventually is to be published in a traditional sense. So yeah, definitely. That's definitely a goal moving forward.
Excellent. Excellent. I think that self-publishing has afforded people so much flexibility and creative control.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when writing about non-traditional things or things that isn't normally seen on the newsstand.
Yeah.
And we all know that minorities, at least in this country, aren't overly represented in media, period, and in literature. So, and I'm not sure why that is. I don't have a lot of insight into it. Just I know that that's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's that great quote that if there's something that you want to read and you don't see it, write it.
Yep, that's Toni Morrison. And that was actually the quote that I hold dear when I'm writing. And that was one of the quotes that inspired the Cougarette as well, because I wasn't seeing characters like CeCe Banks up front and center. And that's why it was important for me to write the Cougarette and for it to not be altered. And I think that self-publishing afforded that luxury to me so that people could see an African-American woman in her mid-40s, you know, grappling with this change in her life while being a mother and while being a professional. And as you'll see in the book, throughout the series, CeCe goes through many metamorphoses as she finally lands on exactly who she wants to be. It's strange, I think, because I would know how CC does it. I just write her. but but it would be so strange to have been with someone for 2 decades and then suddenly be divorced and have a child a child who is about to leave the nest. So this is, she's got a child who's a senior in high school. So he's about to go. And to be alone for the first time in your life in 2 decades, ever in your life, actually, but definitely as an adult, to be alone for the first time as an adult, it's a harrowing experience. But I think that CC, she definitely hits some bumps throughout the series, as you'll see, but you'll find that even though she has hit some bumps throughout the series, that she perseveres some way, somehow at the end of each book. Some way, somehow.
Well, I think that she is a strong character. And I think that, or at least just from book one, she feels like someone who, you know how people talk about when someone leaves the nest from high school and goes into college, and they're spreading their wings and they're testing everything out, and it's kind of confusing, and you might eat all the bad things and go out too much and hook up with the wrong men or whatever. Like, that's part of the experience. I felt like that's what was happening with her after the divorce. She was just experiencing everything again. It was like part two.
Yeah. You'll find that with the series, that is a lot of what CC ends up doing. She ends up rediscovering herself in many different areas. So when you start book 2, and you get into some of those flashbacks, you'll get a little bit of an idea of how CC used to be and how she became the woman she is today. And books 3 and 4 are definitely, in my opinion, that's where you really see the shift in who CC is as a person. So the whole series is really about the growth of CC Banks. And that's what I wanted to show, is that just because you're at a certain age, that doesn't mean you stop growing as a person. You don't stop learning about yourself. And in every book, CC learns something new about herself.
I like that. I like the strong relationships. I like that CC isn't just, she doesn't feel like a caricature or a representation of a lot of African American women's stereotypes. She's not the angry Black woman. She's not the other woman. She feels like a person within her own right, with character flaws, good and bad things.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated that, because a lot of times Black women in media our roles are very, very, very segmented.
Yes. And I wanted to avoid that with CC because I didn't want to make her angry after her divorce. And as you read in the Cougarette, she had plenty of reason to be angry. But I didn't want the book to be about her being angry at her ex-husband. Because that's why in the book I said, okay, within the first couple chapters, I just got that out the way. Like, listen, this is what happened. We're done with that. The story starts now, the day her divorce is finalized, because we don't need to rehash that. We don't need to make CC that stereotypical angry Black woman, because that's not who she is. She really is a sweet person. She really is a very genuine, lighthearted person who just happens to get thrown into some crazy situations. And I thought that it was important that I represented CC in that light, because I wanted her to be unique. And I hope that that's what readers get from after they read the first book. I hope that readers see that they feel like Cece is someone they would know in real life.
I think so. There's been a lot of talk recently, probably within the last year or two, about representation in literature and how minorities are shown in media, in literature. And I feel that you have taken a certain market of the population and definitely shown an interesting light. Cece, you know, she speaks slang sometimes, but sometimes she doesn't. She feels classy. She feels sophisticated, even though sometimes she feels a little naive, but that's okay. You know, she's not just one aspect of being a woman and being a Black woman. And I like that.
Yeah, Cece's definitely the kind of girl that will stomp in some 5-inch stilettos and snag her heel on the carpet on the way out. Yeah. that there's always something that brings Cece back down to earth. Even if she gets a little too elevated, which she typically doesn't, there's always something that brings her right back down to earth. And that's what I love about Cece, is that she takes a licking and she keeps on ticking.
She's definitely good humored, good natured. She's a fun read. So what do you see in your future as a writer? What are some of your future goals?
Well, the future goal, of course, is to gain representation, get myself a literary agent. But I would say my goals for 2016, just looking beyond, after I close out the Cougarette series in October, I want to get it out before Nano, because I'm dedicating Nano to my new series, to the first book in my new series. So first goal, get Cougarette Secret out and get that series closed up in October. I'm going to be participating in Nano, so I'll be in the Nano. I know you're in the Nano Facebook group, so I will be there, scratching the surface, climbing the walls, stabbing myself with pencils, just all that Nano craziness come November. And then I think going into the new year, I am going to start making more appearances. I'm going to be at the Chicago Writers Conference coming up here the weekend of September 25th. I'll be there as an attendee. So if there's anyone out there that will be at the Chicago Writers Conference in September, during the weekend of September 25th, I'll be there. I will also have a table at the Iowa City Book Festival. And that is the weekend of October 4th. So it's that following weekend, or October 2nd. And what I'd like to do next year is just get to as many book shows as possible and just really start marketing myself. I was a marketing major in college. Marketing is a little bit of what I do for a living, so I always try to bring that to my career as a writer. I am on all social networks. I'm on Instagram under Write Girl Problems, WRITE Girl Problems. I'm on Facebook. My author page on Facebook is facebook.com/Eliza D Writes. I'm in Twitter at Eliza D Writes. So I have a strong social media following. I want to just keep building that. That's another goal that I have for the new year, going in the end of this year and the new year. And eventually I would like to transcribe the Cougarette into a screenplay.
Oh, hey now.
I would love to do that. So I would, yeah. So yeah, I would love to transcribe the Cougarette into a screenplay. So Nia Long, if you're listening, girl, I got a job for you. Nia still looks like 30 years old. So by the time I get my shit together, she'll still be able to pass.
Right? She'll look 35.
Exactly. So by the time in like 20 years, she'll still look about 40. So
It'll work.
but yeah, those are my goals coming up for the end of this year in 2016.
Eliza, thank you so much for coming on here and chatting with us. It has been a delight. Once again, Eliza David, you can find her Cougarette Series on Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble, right?
Yep.
That website. Is there anywhere else where they could find it?
They can always check out my website. My website is elizadavidwrites.com. There will be my books right on that front page. You click the cover of the book you want and it'll take you right to the Amazon page. You can always find me, like I said, on social media. My Instagram is Right Girl Problems. Absolutely look me up. You can always catch me on social media. I'm like a social media hound. And then, of course, my Facebook page is facebook.com/Eliza D. Writes. But the first place you always want to go is my website. You'll be able to contact me through there. You can see my Goodreads, my Facebook, my Twitter, as well as purchase links to all 5 of my books at elizadavidwrites.com.
Fantastic. And after this broadcast, in the description, I'll put a link to your social media spots as well so people can check you out. Once again, thank you so much. This was a fun time. Congratulations with your past books, and I hope Girls Night In is also a success. So everyone, thank you for tuning in.
And thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. By the way, Eliza and I, we have hung out at #WriteStuff on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitter. So if you're a writer and you want to talk to other writers about writing, join us.
Absolutely. It's a great time.
It really is. And I think that everyone who attends takes something with them. So it's a good time. So you guys, again, thank you all. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.